The biggest thing is when I joined at the start of this agency at the end of 2021, marketing was really viewed as a sales support arm. Since we've been around, I think we've proven that marketing really needs a seat at the table when it comes to business strategy. We've been able to impact that and not only prove ROI, but identify areas within the business that we need better connected systems, better connected technology. So it's really exciting.
This is the In-House Podcast, a series where leaders in in-house marketing and advertising tell their stories. I'm Craig Tepper, co-founder of In.Studio, a digital production consultancy for in-house agencies. We're producing this podcast to create a community where best practices, advice, and hard-learned lessons from our friends and colleagues across the industry can be shared. For this episode, I spoke with Mikaela Maloney, who's a leader of the in-house agency at Ideal Industries. She admits that Ideal isn't a household name, but they are an over 100-year-old global company whose products have been used on every NASA mission, including the Apollo moon landings. What I think is interesting, and you'll hear in detail in this episode, is that Ideal went from being a sales-focused company that saw marketing as sales support to a company with an in-house agency, influencer marketing program, a video program, and robust media services all in-house, which has given the marketing leadership a real impact on the way the business is actually run. A remarkable transformation, which you'll hear about in detail right now with Mikaela Maloney in her own words.
My name is Mikaela Maloney, and I lead the content and communications team for our in-house agency here at Ideal Industries. I'm one of two leaders on the team that reports into the CMO, and I work out of my home office in a suburb of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Prior to my work at Ideal, I was part of another in-house agency at a company called Corteva AgriScience, and I've also worked at two ad agencies in Milwaukee. Ideal is a 109-year-old global family-owned company in the power and electrical space, headquartered outside of Chicago, Illinois. We have three brands under our umbrella: Ideal Electrical, Anderson Power, and Enatel. And though those brands are not household names, so we're primarily B2B, and we serve an audience of engineers, electricians, and other decision makers across many B2B verticals. Our products have been used on every NASA mission, including the moon landing, and we've also been used on critical Antarctic research missions. And bringing it down a little bit closer to home, our products are actually used today in the construction of almost every building in the United States. And then I just wanted to tell you briefly a little bit about our internal agency's team structure. So we're a fully remote team. We have 12 full-time employees, and we do have additional support from external agencies as well. I co-lead our in-house agency team alongside another senior manager. And like I said at the beginning, I lead the content and communications team, and that team consists of really our creative team: writers, designers, content creators. The other senior manager, they manage our team of digital channel specialists, so social, email, web, data. And then all together, we call ourselves the Integrated Marketing Group. We abbreviate it IMG. And we function as a corporate in-house agency, and we serve all of those brands under the Ideal umbrella. So 2021 is when we started it. It was really a consequence of COVID, as I think a lot of digital practices are. So we started out servicing just digital, just organic social, email, and web, and then quickly grew to servicing many more functions and capabilities. The team has definitely grown in the 4 years that we have been founded. We started out with, I think it was 5 full-time employees, and now we have a team of 12. So it's definitely grown. The workload has definitely increased as well. I think that's one of the most interesting and coolest case studies about this is once we started producing work and the businesses started to see the ROI that our team was providing, the requests just kept pouring in. So right now we're at a place where we have to really balance workload and really talk priorities every single week to understand what we can actually feasibly accomplish. The main differences between working for an external agency and an in-house agency. I think in-house agency, one of the things that I really appreciate is truly being able to have a seat at the table and impact business strategy. In the time that we've been here, we've been able to push for several different business changes actually, and I think those are things that I never would have seen at an external agency. We've pushed to launch a merchandise store because we saw customers asking for our logoed merch via social media. And we saw that insight and we took it and we pitched it to our C-suite and they said, "Yes, there's an opportunity here." So that's one of the things that I think is a big differentiator is just being able to have that impact on business outcomes. We've also been able to say, hey, after we did a project on investing in retail media, we uncovered that we were losing people in the conversion funnel. And so that was another thing where we were able to impact business strategy and add services to our function. So now we take on and we write all of our e-com listings, and there's a consistent experience across the digital journey. So those are a couple of, I think, examples of how an in-house agency is really able to have a lot of authority on the business strategy. But I won't discount at external agency, I was able to really quickly learn a lot of communications best practices. So I don't want to say that like outright one is better than the other because I think they both do have value and I'm really glad I personally took the journey I did, but I definitely am a fan of the in-house model. In the 4 years that we have been around at our company, we've gone through different models of billing our business partners. And just recently, we moved to being 100% covered by the corporate entity. Before that, we tried different versions of doing allocations. So, depending on the amount of work we did for businesses, they would pay a certain allocation for all of our salaries, tech, and services. That got really confusing, hard to track. It was very taxing administratively. So we've just moved our CEO was supportive of saying, hey, this is actually just going to come out of the corporate budget and we're not going to worry about allocations anymore. So that's kind of how we've dealt with that part of the pie. We actually have a philosophy in our group, and it's centered around the mindset of like you can't handle everything, so you have to focus on the most important things. And so what we do is we do with all of our businesses a quarterly check-in on our priorities. And we just say, hey, this is everything that's on our list. And we also have a what we call like the parking lot. And we put in there all of the requests and we say, we've heard this, we know this is a priority for you, but we can't actually feasibly accomplish it with the bodies that we have. And that has led to some really good discussions where sometimes they're like, okay, that's fine. We will put that on the list for Q3 or Q4. We'll revisit it when your team's bandwidth frees up. Other times it's led to discussions on, hey, actually, all of this work is a priority. So we're going to throw in additional money from our business budget. And we want your team to either hire additional bodies or hire contractors. So I think for me, it comes down to just having really candid conversations, always checking in with my team to understand their workload and bandwidth, and then just being really honest and direct and kind about the bandwidth that we have. And like usually it's not a problem. Everybody understands that there's only so many hours in the day. Ideal Industries is we kind of consider it like a holding company or an umbrella company. There's actually very few employees in our overall company structure that work for corporate. So for the most part, we have three main business units: Ideal Electrical, Anderson Power, and Enatel. And each of those business units has their own team. They're all led by a general manager, and they all have actually internal marketing operations folks, a sales team, and then everything that comes with running a business. So they all kind of have their own unique little ecosystem. And then at the corporate level, there's our group, which is corporate marketing. There's a legal team, and really the C-suite and finance. And that's really about it in terms of company structure. We work really closely with the marketing operations folks. A lot of times they are the ones that are working directly with their GM, for example, to set the marketing priorities, and then we collaborate with them to set the strategy and get the work done. Everything for the most part does go through our team. The exception is we don't get overly involved in sales support materials, so things like sales sheets or co-op materials, information that's targeted more at the sales channel is typically handled by that marketing operations arm, but we're typically made aware of it and make sure that everything is consistent from a branding perspective. Previously, I was part of an in-house team and it was a much bigger team. It was for a publicly traded organization and the team there was about 40 individuals. So it really operated like a full service advertising agency. I learned a lot from that experience. I was more of an individual contributor in that role, but I learned the value of how much time and efficiency can be saved by bringing things in-house, and I've been able to bring a lot of what I was able to observe from my leaders who led that agency and use that to apply to our model here. That's much smaller and kind of a little bit easier to manage, I'm sure. So one of the big things that I learned was during my time at Corteva, we brought in house paid media, and I I was one of the people that was running the in-house media program, and I learned first of all, you can be so much more nimble by in-housing media. You have a lot more say in creative, and the creatives I worked with got the creative right in terms of what the business wanted the first time. And so I learned a lot about what can be gained from having a team like that in house. You can be more aligned to your business partners. You can impact, again, like I said earlier, you can impact business strategy. And I learned that your creative team can just be a lot closer aligned to what the business wanted. So I was able to observe that model of what it took to bring media in that example in house, and I've been able to apply that here and actually do it myself. We do full funnel, both organic and paid media. So our team actually started in just the organic space, and we would outsource everything from a paid and programmatic standpoint. And then actually just last year we started in-housing the paid and programmatic side of it. We've definitely found a financial benefit. I think one of the biggest ones is we've been able to save on media management fees. We saw some pretty hefty media management fees that were eating into our actual investment. I think the other thing that I've observed by being able to manage this in-house is we've been able to tie really closely our PR program to our paid investment. And I think that's maybe increasingly efficient because we have such a niche audience and it's very trade media focused. But it again, it's just been so it's we've been able to be so nimble by saying, "Hey, like we want to sign up, we want to partner with you from a paid perspective, trade media partner A." We found by doing that, we had all of these added value editorial opportunities. So for me, that has been huge for us. We do influencer marketing, yes. Again, it's really interesting, but I love working with the influencers we work with. We primarily work with them on our brand that's called Ideal Electrical. So it's kind of a brand that's in the middle of that B2C, B2B space. We work with what's called electrician influencers, which was new to me when I when I joined the company a couple years ago. But yeah, we actually I'll brag on that program a little bit. In particular, we did our first ever influencer brand trip for this audience last year, and we saw huge benefit to being able to break down our technical products with an audience and have them hands on, get to do demos and meet our company leaders. We're still seeing today added value content from that event that we put on in August of last year. And I could probably do a whole podcast just on that event in particular, but We do have influencers, and they've been really effective for us, especially when you start with the right intent and the right outcomes that you want from a B2B influencer program. Our video content has also been an evolution. I think we've tested and tried almost everything under the sun. So we where we're at today is we try to play a little bit in the trend space. So we try to observe what's happening in the cultural conversation. When appropriate, we try to latch on to something that we think is brand appropriate. That's probably about 20% or less of our content. The area that we've kind of really shined in is we try to take a fun spin on like off-camera interviews with our product managers and product experts. So we'll throw them like fun questions. We'll try to have an interesting background. And then we really let their expertise shine, and we make sure that they know to stay in like a 30-second time frame. So that's been really successful to the point where a couple of our product managers are like known by our social community. We started this series called Hey Trevor and Quick Question Chris, and people will comment all the time, where's Trevor, where's Chris? So it's kind of just like a fun little community that we've built off of that series. We still have a weekly meeting that we call TikTok Tuesday. Irregardless of what platform we're putting it on, we just branded it that. We use a combination of manual searches, what's in our feeds, what we're seeing, what we're engaging with, and then we use the trending section too to identify trending sounds. We use our influencer community to kind of tap for trends as well. So we try to follow all of our influencers and study what trends they're hopping on, to truly make sure that what we do is in line with what our audience is seeing and engaging with. So that's kind of the three-tier method for trend engagement. So in terms of our who we're marketing to, it differs across businesses. For our electrical brand, which I've spoken a lot about, we're targeting both the electrical contractor and the working electrician. And then there's kind of a whole chain of stakeholders that exist within that field. So apprentices who are going to trade school, high school students who are considering whether to enter the trades. Um, so that's kind of that business in particular. On our other businesses, we're actually primarily targeting engineers, and folks in procurement roles. And that's more of that typical like B2B component sourcing businesses. So that's kind of who we're talking to. In terms of what kind of inspired this model or what made the company want to bring on an in-house agency, I kind of alluded to it in the very beginning. A lot of it was driven by COVID and the company's knowledge that we needed to be a lot more digital focused. That's really where it started. And then again, as we started to service the company, they started to see, hey, your team has capabilities in branding, in creative strategy, in paid media. And as they started to learn and uncover everything else that we had within our expertise, we just kept getting more and more requests. And, I was part of a couple of pitches that positioned our team as cost savers and, um, just again, that word efficiency and nimbleness. Like we can do this better, we can do it faster, we can do it closer to what you're asking for. And by the way, we can save you some money while we're at it. So I think that has been kind of what started us and then what helped us grow into an even bigger team. We did not used to be brand or marketing focused at all. So prior to our team, it was very sales focused and very product line focused specifically. There was hardly any attention spent on the actual brands and elevating their place in the market. One of the big reasons why we've shifted is because we saw, especially from a brand standpoint, how risky it was and how, we're at risk of, losing our brand position compared to competitors because we haven't focused on a brand approach. And it's really hard to support individual product lines or individual sales strategies in any way that actually truly impacts brand awareness metrics. So, factors that motivate us to take work outside, to me, there's three things. Number one, when we need new ideas. When, like I said earlier, one of the benefits of having a creative team is they can come to the table and you don't have to do a lot of explaining. They understand your products. However, the downside of that is sometimes you get stuck in the rut of the same ideas. So we certainly take seriously efforts like brand refreshes or tapping into new markets. We try to partner with external agencies for projects like that. Number two would be specialized expertise that's difficult to hire for. An example of that is the technical management of our websites. It's hard to hire developers. It's hard to hire people that specialize in the back end of website management. We partner with agencies to help us manage that. And then the third thing is regional expertise. Our team is really focused in the US. We know the US, we know Canada marketing, but there's no great way to just know what the German market is or know what the New Zealand market is. So we do partner with agencies regionally when we have brand exposure goals there. How have we changed marketing's role at the company? I have to say it has grown exponentially. It's hard to even put into words. The biggest thing is when I joined at the start of this agency at the end of 2021, marketing was really viewed as a sales support arm. Again, there was embedded marketing folks that sat in the businesses, but everyone from top to bottom really treated marketing as sort of administrative assistants. Make this sell sheet, design this, do this task for me. Since we've been around, I think we've proven that marketing really needs a seat at the table when it comes to business strategy. We've been able to impact that. And one testament to that is last year at this time, we brought on a chief marketing officer to help lead our group and help us champion the efforts of our internal agencies with the business arms. So she has our two senior leaders reporting into her, and then the two or the three marketing people in each of the business all have a lateral line into her. And I just can't say enough about how much our voice has grown at the company. And then we've been able to not only prove ROI, but identify areas within the business that we need better connected systems, better connected technology. So it's really exciting. KPIs have been an evolution as well, but I'm really happy with where we're at currently. Most of the time we set KPIs based on different campaigns or different initiatives. So we like to tailor the exact measurement points based on the specific goals of a specific campaign or specific effort. The way we structure that is we always start with what is the actual tangible business outcome we want to achieve. And then we like to propose measurement points that match that. And we also like to do that by the funnel. So typically we'll have some brand awareness KPIs, some consideration KPIs, and some purchase or loyalty KPIs. I don't think any of them are going to actually surprise anyone, but we like to use, things like impressions and brand lift at the awareness stage. Then we come down and we benchmark engagement rate, CTRs in that consideration funnel, time on site. And then in the lead or loyalty purchase part of our funnel, we have a little bit of a different model because we are B2B. A lot of our work can't be directly measured by an instant DTC purchase, but we measure leads, we measure coupon redemptions, and then that's another area where, again, just our work in the last 4 years, we're just going to become a lot more advanced in what we can do in the future there because we've identified ways that, hey, we need these systems to talk to each other so we can actually measure that true ROI. Metrics are usually set by our team. We have a really smart data analyst in our team that helps us identify what we can tangibly measure based on the outcomes we're trying to achieve. And then in collaboration with the CMO and the businesses, we just make sure that we're aligned from an outcome standpoint. Biggest challenges that we face, and I'm going to take this question as just general internal agency challenges that I've observed. I think number one, and I think it's both a positive and a challenge is you do deal with more internal politics and typically have to deal with more hands-on actually like getting buy-in and setting up a new program or a new process. I think though it's a challenge, it's also a beautiful benefit because you can set it up and truly run things the way you want to run them. So just that autonomy. But sometimes you do spend more time selling in the value of your work or setting up a new process, new program, getting people to align than I maybe spent doing that at an external agency. And then a lot of time just spent connecting dots and making sure that everyone's on the same page, and making sure that everyone is aligned to the mission, especially when we work with folks that sit in marketing operations teams within businesses. I spend a lot of time and really try to make sure that there's true collaboration and buy-in from all of those folks there too. A lot of them have been here for, 30 years. So there's a lot of sensitivity to not step on people's toes and not be the new people coming in and trying to shake things up and do things too differently. Pushback internally, I would say yes and no. Maybe initially there's pushback or questioning about how to work with us or what we cover. The biggest pushback is probably around, can you do it faster? Why can't you do it this fast? Why can't you do everything for my business? So I think the biggest challenge or pushback is just really balancing the work that we get from all three of our internal brands. But I will say, I think the value we provide is high enough that they don't go and work with other external agencies. I think they've seen what we can do and ultimately they trust us and they say, "Yeah, I don't want to spend the time doing that myself, so we will work with you and we will work on your timeline." The thing I'm most proud of is the influencer brand trip event that we put on last year. It's not a new concept to the marketing industry as a whole, but I think influencer marketing isn't maybe as common for B2B or niche brands or technical industries. So I'm really proud of the whole process that we went through from concepting and pitching that idea to the businesses, setting the right goals, and it was very intentional from both an outcomes and KPI standpoint. There was a lot of scrutiny on that program because it was something new, it was something different that had never been done before in our walls. But then the results that we got from it, the impressions goal outperformed 50x the benchmark that we set. So I think it was a true testament of when you're really thoughtful and intentional about setting a program, when you get buy-in, when you talk about KPIs from the beginning, it just allowed us to shine when we actually did the work and they saw the results to the point where they doubled our budget for this year's event, because they were so excited about the results that we proved there. Truly, this team is so incredible. We've fostered a group where we all truly have each other's backs, and that's not common in a remote team. I've worked on other remote teams where you don't have a culture at all. But it's a testament to all of the individuals wanting to show up, wanting to do a good job. There's so much love and encouragement within our own team walls, and I think that shows in the work product and in the effort that team members put in. So just making sure that everyone feels valued and feels like they have a voice, no matter if they are 1 year on the job or 20 years on the job. So I think that's a big thing. So there's a Teams group chat that we keep, and it is going off all hours of the day. People are sharing what they're working on, they're sharing decks, they're sharing conversations that they had, and that's truly our virtual water cooler where we are just talking about what we're all working on. And that is a way where I think everyone feels like they have buy-in, and even if they didn't get to sit in a meeting, they feel like they were included and they were asked for input. The couple of other things that we do, nothing's surprising or truly that crazy, but we do an every other week TGIAF call, which stands for Thank Goodness It's Almost Friday. And we use that time to just kind of bond and get to know each other on a more personal level. And then I think the final thing is creative work is at its core, you are going to get a lot of feedback from a lot of people. You are you kind of have to have a very humble approach to your work and not be very tied to it. And that's true at every place. And we've just built a culture of we give each other critical feedback, but we do it with love and good intent, is the best way I can describe it, because we know we're going to have to eventually show it to our business partners. And we do it with this intent of we want to make sure that all of my teammates are able to put their best foot forward. So we really try to beat things up internally and be both kind but also critical of each other's work before it goes out of our doors. We used to do what we called point of contacts for the different businesses, where we had one person assigned to kind of be what at an external agency would be an account manager or an account lead, and that funneled the feedback. We are just trialing a new approach this year where we actually ask our business partners to go direct to channel experts or specialty experts, mostly because it was really bogging down that point person with a lot of account management responsibilities. And we have a small and nimble team. So we are making this change and we will see how it goes. Um, but I think there's pros and cons to either approach. We do get the team together physically. We typically try to aim for twice a year. We do what's called team summits. Typically, they're at our headquarters, which is outside of Chicago, Illinois, and we get together and discuss big team strategies and try to have a little fun along the way. Our in person meetings are I would say 80% team building and 20% getting things done. The work that we want to get done is typically things like we need to collaborate on a creative strategy deck, or we need to have discussions around team process. That's typically the nature of the work that we're getting done. But then for the most part, we typically use that time to share successes. A lot of times, people might not know the nitty gritty of what I'm working on in influencer marketing. I might not know what SEO priority my web specialist is working on. So we also try to use that time to just kind of celebrate and share success stories of what we're all working on. Generative AI. So I may give a more hesitant answer than others, but I will say I accept it and I continue to observe what it can do for us, but I am skeptical, and here's why. We work in the power and electrical space, and one of the big conversations that we know company wide is that AI is about 10x more taxing on the electrical grid than a typical Google search. So, just as a personal opinion, I try to be conscious of what I use Gen AI for, because it does have an energy usage and it's a lot more than a typical Google search. So from the sustainability aspect of it, I just try to be a conscious user of it. That being said, I do think it has a ton of benefits when used, in moderation, I'll say. So we use it to do simple mock-ups when you can't create something, and it can be a lot faster to just show like an AI mock-up of something visually. From a copy standpoint, we use it for a lot of times grammar checks, or if someone hits writer's block, we encourage them to try to start with something like Copilot. And then probably my favorite use of Gen AI is simply the built-in Microsoft Office efficiency things like meeting transcription, reading back emails, Excel shortcuts. So I try to use it on things that like will help me focus on my creative energy and kind of solve some of those more administrative tasks. The future of in-house, I do think it will continue to grow. I think as I'll use social media as an example. The channels change not even every year anymore. They change every 3 months. I think, especially on the digital side, it's going to continue to just add a layer of nimbleness that companies will see. And as regulations change almost daily, I think there's just a lot of nimbleness, scale, and efficiency that can be gained from using an internal agency model. That being said, I'm not the person to say external agencies are 100% going away, because I think there's always value in having external resources and people consulting on your business and giving you an outside in look.
I'd like to thank Mikaela for taking the time to walk us through her experiences helping to run and build a dynamic in-house team. And if you're interested in expanding your own in-house capabilities, reach out to us at In.Studio. We're on the web at weareinstudio.com. We have a great group of in-house team leaders and creatives coming up in future episodes. Next time, Beth Ann Mandia, Director of Creative Services at TrueStage, discusses the challenges of running a fully remote, creative-led in-house team. Until next time.